But right from the beginning, things started to go wrong. The Montego Bay resort they'd been promised was replaced by a car trip to Kingston and bunking in with the Toronto man's family. They stuck it out for a week, but then on the drive back to the airport, there was a pit stop. A package appeared.
He's like, it's just fish. I just want you guys to take fish. It's nothing big.
Who were you supposed to take the fish to?
Back to Canada, to the guy.
To the guy who'd sent you?
The guy that sent us here.
The next thing they knew, there were new suitcases, and the packages of fish were hidden amongst their clothes.
We were wondering what the hell's going on, but it smelled like fish. So we're like, okay, this is just fish, let's just go home.
It wasn't going to be that easy. At the airport, there were police and sniffer dogs, and they smelled something else.
And they're like, come, let's go to the back and check it out. And we're like, okay, we just have fish, you know? And we're like, okay, we went to the back, got the bags, he opened it up, then he cut it open. You could see the fish. He cut open the fish and he's seen a brick. He cut inside the ceramic wrap and he pulled out some green stuff. And he said, look, what is this? And I looked at him and all I can remember is I felt like I was gonna have a heart attack or I was gonna faint. I had to leave.
But for Iman and Hoda, there would be no leaving. According to Jamaican police, those fish contained nearly 20 kilos of marijuana.
And we just started crying and crying and crying, and one of the officers couldn't do nothing about it. He was just like, you know what, girls? I think the best thing for you guys to do is just keep quiet and just relax. Even if you gotta call your parents, call your parents. We're like, nope, no parents.
For 2 long months, they sat in jail here. The Toronto man who sent them to Jamaica did hire them a lawyer who made it clear to them in no uncertain terms they were not to talk. And so they didn't, not to police, and they decided not even to their families. Back in Toronto, it seemed they'd simply disappear. And that's the way they wanted it. At least in Montego Bay's notorious Shreveport jail, they were safe. From the Toronto man they now admit they knew sold drugs, and from his Jamaican accomplices. Could you identify these people if you had to, if you saw them?
If I saw them, yeah, I could. But I'd be afraid too, though. I would be afraid too. Only because my family's life could be at risk back home, and my life could be at risk down here because I don't have anybody down here.
After 8 weeks, their resolve finally broke. Iman was able to quietly answer one of those Facebook pleas her sister had been posting. 2 weeks later, her father was on a plane.
I would never in a million years think my dad would come to Jamaica and see me. When he came to see me, I just started crying. I couldn't hold my tears. Then he started crying, and that was the first time I seen my dad cry. And that's when I realized, okay, my dad's gonna slowly come in my life now.
And she said, my dad, I make mistake. I did a very bad mistake, and take me please out. I said, I can, if I can do that. But we will see what we can do.
Beyond posting bail and hiring a new lawyer, there wasn't much he could do. Until their trial, Iman and Hoda would have to stay in Montego Bay alone. He returned to Toronto. That night, the phone rang. There'd been a shooting.
Abdinasir is dead. I said, what? Abdinasir is dead. Where? In Alberta. No.
When we come back, Alberta's body count rises. Eight months after he'd left Toronto for Alberta, Abdinasir Dirie's family flew out to bury him.
31 bodies? Is that normal? Unsolved? Come on.
His murder in Fort McMurray was the latest in a deadly trend. In the last 5 years, more than 24 young Somali Canadian men have been killed in Alberta. Not a single case has been solved. Why do you think somebody wanted Abdinasir dead?
They probably seen him as a threat. He was just a person that wasn't scared or intimidated by anybody.
What do you mean by that? And I want to know who did this to him, because he did not deserve that. He did not deserve that.
Why did he move out to Alberta? What was he looking for when he came out here?
I don't know, honestly. He was going to go see his family. All we know is...
Even today, people who knew Abdinasir are wary of talking publicly. But over months of research, we've pieced together details of his last months in Fort McMurray. From the beginning, the undertones were dark. For instance, we've learned more about that posse he mentioned in his yearbook, Somali Gangster Crips. It wasn't a gang exactly, but many of the Jamestown kids who belonged to it had run-ins with police. Last summer, a group of them decided to travel to Fort McMurray together, Abdinasir among them. Whether they knew it or not, Fort Mac's reputation is not just for fast money, but for drugs. In recent years, more and more Somalis have become players. So the Somali kids, are they the power behind all of this, or are they just the kids who are out there selling?
They're just the kids trying to make money.
So they're being controlled by other people?
Not controlled. They choose to.
But the trade they choose is a dangerous one, as some of those Jamestown kids were about to find out. Just weeks after he arrived with the Toronto group, 20-year-old McFrin Patty was shot and killed.
They were all out there at one point, all the boys in our area and whatnot, and he ended up getting murdered. And once he got murdered, everybody came back, but Abdinasir was still down there. And we were wondering why.
Even after another boy from Toronto was murdered 6 weeks later, he still decided to stay. 2 weeks after that, yet another young Somali was gunned down in broad daylight. Abdinasir's family begged them to come home. Sister-in-law Hamda Jibril.
His mother was kind of scared, telling him come back. You know what I mean? We can work something out. Once again, he's just like, no, I'm fine. I would tell you guys if there was a problem.
He assured them he wasn't mixed up in anything bad. As far as they knew, he had a job.
One time I said, what do you do? And he said, I'm working. What are you working? I'm Tim Horton, I'm working. I said, why you work in Tim Horton?
Do you think he really was working at Tim Hortons?
I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. That's what he said.
But we could find no confirmation that Abdinasir ever had any job in Fort McMurray. Still, he always had money, and he was always ready to share. What kind of money are we talking about?
200, 300. No.
That's pretty generous if you're working in a fast food restaurant. I mean, he was also sending money to his mother.
They'd be having conversation, and she'd be like, I miss my car payment, and then out of nowhere, he'd be calling her and say, hey, pick up this money from Money Mart. And then she'd be like, what are you doing? Send me money. He's like, don't worry, just pay off your car payment. You know, like, he would just make sure that she had nothing to worry about.
In February, 2 more Somali Canadians were found dead in Alberta. The growing body count demanded an explanation.
Tonight, it was murder.
In less than a year and a half, 7 young Somali men have been shot and killed.
There were theories, everything from deranged gunmen to battles with biker gangs. At Halima's Kitchen in Fort McMurray, they didn't know what to think.
They said the kids don't want to work. We went to school, we did everything. No guidance, no parents. We came from all the way back home. We're struggling. You know what I'm saying? They're so blind.
But slowly, even the older generation began to understand that the murders were not the work of some mysterious outside force. The answers and the culprits were closer to home.
Excuse me. That's your feeling.
No, it's okay.
As last winter turned to spring, the tension finally seemed to get to Abdinasir too. One day he announced he'd made a decision to go home. Halima's daughter, Shukri.
Oh, Auntie, I forgot to tell you, I'm going back to school. I said, what, you're going back to school? He goes, yeah, I'm going back to school. And guess what I'm taking? I said, what? He goes, power engineering. I said, why power engineering? He said, because it's only 2 years, because by the time I'm 21, I'll have something and I can get a job. I said, then what do you think is next? He goes, oh, the dream. I said, what's the dream? A house, a mortgage, a beautiful car, a wife, a beautiful wife. He said that I can hold her. And I said, she better not be tall. He was very jokester. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he just had he had it pictured.
5 days before he died, Abdinasir showed up unexpectedly at his sister-in-law's in Edmonton.
They say in our religion that when someone's about to die, that they don't know, but their soul knows, you know, like, he was just acting like, this is the last time I'm gonna see him, like, he's acted so, like, loving, saying things like, oh man, I love you guys, I'm so happy to see you guys, you know, like.
He'd driven 5 hours to get there, told them he'd done some shopping, and was on his way to the bus stop to catch the Greyhound back.
He took his brother upstairs and he said, they had a long chat, and he's like, just stay, you know, like, just stay. He gave him some money and he's like, no, I don't want your money.
Who gave?
Abdinasir gave my husband money. He's like, no, it's okay, I don't want your money, you know? Just keep your money, I'm good. He's like, no, take it, please. And he just left it on the dresser.
And then he was gone?
He was gone. It just felt like that was his goodbye, you know? And we didn't even know.